it's Betsy, and today we have a fun video. We're going to be testing out the new LA Girl Hey Hey Vacay Under the Palm 16 color eyeshadow palette. Now, I purchased this from Ulta, so this retails for $15.99. Right now on their website, they've got buy two, get one free. And I chose this color story because they came out with two of them because y'all know I love me some good grungy greens. And to me, this palette does scream summer because I love bronzes and oranges in the summertime. So I figured we would do 3 looks with this palette because I have some other videos to shoot. So I was like, well, let's go ahead and start playing with this, especially because it is so affordable. Now, this does have a 24-month shelf life, and the colors are on the clear plastic that is on the palette. That's the only thing that drives me insane about this. But I enjoyed the really colorful one that they had in spring, so I was like, let's try this one. So I'm gonna try to keep it where I can see the names of these eyeshadows, but I make no guarantee. So the first shade is Naked. So it's just a nude color. No Regrets. Like a light peach. Sandy Toes. Just kind of like a warm orange. Now, these are not swatching. Well, the shimmer swatched better than the mattes, but I will tell you, at least from the last time that I used an LA Girl palette, I enjoyed both the shimmers and the mattes from them. So that's why I figured also we'd pick this up. Then we've got Vibin'. So that is a beautiful copper. See how nice and metallic that is? Bucket List, which to me is like a lighter kind of tangerine orange metallic. Then we've got R&R. It's like a Texas orange kind of shade. See, it's a little bit more burnt. Summer, that is more of like your true orange. And I know that it's hard to tell the difference between those two when I'm swatching them out because the swatches are not the best. But again, as I said, I didn't expect much from the swatches. It's more of what it looks like on the eyes. Then we've got Coral, which to me really isn't a coral, it's an orange. But that is a really pretty orange shimmer. It's like a burnt orange. Then we've got Panoramic. That is a beautiful sage green, almost gold shimmer. Then we've got Mojitos. That's an army green shimmer. Look how pretty that is. And Scenic Route. That's really pretty. I like that shade. And that's a really smooth metallic. Then we've got Coconuts. So that's more of like a brown shimmer. Isn't that a pretty color? BRB. That's a pretty color. I love a good green. Now, I will say that BRB and Mojitos are very similar, except Mojitos has a little bit more gold to it. Then we have Palms. That's a pretty green. That one swatched good too. Then we have Explore. We can swatch that one again. So that's just more of a true brown. Wipe away the swatches. My eyelids feel sticky. I used a primer I haven't used in forever, and that's the Pretty Vulgar primer. And last but not least is the shade Unplugged. Now, Unplugged and Explore are almost identical. So is R&R in Summer, like when you actually look at those two oranges. But, you know, again, it is a $16 palette. And I know Ulta, you know, a lot of times on their drugstore stuff, it's like $3.50 off of a $15 or more purchase. So you can get this even cheaper. So if there's a little overlap, there's a little overlap. So let's go ahead and use our eye tapes. I'm gonna do more of a neutral look today, and since I decided to do more neutral, I was like, well, that's why we decided to use the Pretty Vulgar eyeshadow primer. But I do like the Pretty Vulgar eyeshadow primer. It's just pretty sticky. It had came in a box to charm, and I'm trying to use things up. So we're gonna go first into the shade Naked. Okay, so as you can see, I'm not sure if you can tell, but there is kick up in the pan, but it does apply to the brush well. And there is some kind of powder kick up as well, like when you apply it to the eye. But again, to me, that doesn't bother me. Almost every eyeshadow palette that I like has some powder kick up. Because to me, a lot of times that makes them blend better. Now, I have had some that I have had a lot of kick up and I hate it. But yeah. And even when I'm doing an easy breezy, like, neutral look, I still will use the eye tapes and stuff like that. Okay. Sorry. So as you can see, it did take down the color of my eyelid because I have really discolored eyelids. And that's a lot of times what I check for, like a neutral shade, if I'm using like a primer that has no color to it, is to see what it does to my eyelid shade. So I don't think it did anything super crazy, but it did tone down the brownness that is on my eyelid. So I can't complain about that. Okay, next up, I think we're gonna go into this shade Sandy Toes right here. And we're gonna apply that into the crease. I'm using a BK Beauty 206. So this has a little bit more of a warm undertone. But you see, you can definitely see a difference between the eyes. You can see the warmth to it. And it's building up nicely. So we'll just keep blending. That looks pretty. I mean, so far the colors in here I have a bajillion times over, but on the same hand, for people who are getting into makeup or wanting to try some of like those green tones and things like that, seeing if we can find a more budget conscious option, because you know, most of the eyeshadow palettes that I have are in the $50 range. So finding something that is a little bit more affordable and budget friendly for everybody is never a bad thing. So you can kind of see what that looks like. It blended out well. It blended with the other shade well, which is always a plus. Now I'm gonna grab a BK Beauty 202. So you can see it's still a fluffy blender, but it's a little bit more pointed. And we're gonna go into the shade Explore right here to deepen up our crease. So yeah, you can definitely see how these shades are a little bit more on the messy side. Okay, it's doing something. So this is definitely more of a buildable formula, as you can see. When the first time you dip in and place some color on your eye, it doesn't show very much, but you can easily build it up. So just in case you're wondering, this is more of that buildable formula. But like if you look, there isn't any patchiness or weirdness. Because sometimes with cheaper eyeshadows, that is something that you contend with, is they don't always blend the best, and they sometimes will have like weird patchiness. Now I do know that like with the main stage palettes, a lot of people who had them shipped came back with like broken eyeshadows. So if you can, I would recommend going to the store, but I ordered mine online. This one, I didn't order the main stage one, and not having any issues. Okay, so I want to deepen up that outer corner a little bit more. So I'm gonna take, this is just a teeny tiny little blending brush. This is a Noblet N507 or N205. How did I get those numbers wrong? And we're gonna go into the deepest shade, which is Unplugged. And to see how that kind of deepens up, to see if it actually does anything different. So yeah, I see a difference. But I figured today we would go very, very neutral. Nothing too crazy. Okay. I like that. Now let's find something to put all over the eyelid. So I think what I'm gonna put on my eyelid is this goldy shade, bronzy kind of color, which is Scenic Route. So I've got a Noblet 103, and see how it picks up on the brush. So it picks up okay on the brush. I didn't spray it or anything like that. I think I need to though. But spraying a shimmer is nothing unusual. I will either use spray or a glitter glue on almost every shimmer to get a little bit more payoff, and that way I can use a brush with it. Because I find that if I use my fingers with it, I have chubby little fingers, so trying to get on just my eyelid isn't always the easiest thing in the world to do. But this is pretty. This is a really pretty color. See? And one thing I will tell you is that I feel like the shimmers in here are definitely better quality and more my speed than in that Too Faced palette that I just reviewed. And I feel like there's a little bit more versatility in this palette than in the Too Faced one. So I can say, even just off of what I've done today, that I would choose this over the Too Faced teddy bear one. So, if that helps you with your thoughts. Okay. That's what we look like. I like this. I like this a whole lot. So, let me grab my teeny tiny little brush again that I just used. Where is it? Should have left it out. I don't know if y'all do that. Okay. And just blend over the edges. So, this is what the top of the eyes look like. What do you think? I think it's pretty. So I'm gonna go off camera, do the rest of my face. We'll do the lower lash line, and then we'll be done for today. So I'm back and I have the rest of my face on. So we're gonna go ahead and do the lower lash line. I don't have mascara on, and I probably won't for this portion of the video because I'm doing a mascara video after this. So I'm grabbing my Noblet N205, that tiny little blender brush, with that same darkest brown that I used on the top eyelid. And we're gonna use that to smudge out the lower lash line. I did line my lower lash line with a brown liner from ColourPop, which is the Sunny Veil one. It's pretty. I used the Fenty Eavesdrops in shade number 11 on my skin. I used my Milk Makeup Bronzer, and then I also used the Danessa Myricks Lightworks palette number 2. I used mixed the shade Chocolate and Cappuccino for a glowy bronzer, the shade Saffron for a blush, and Cinnamon and Sugar is my highlight shade. Okay, so let's pick out something to do as an inner corner. Need something tiny. So I'm gonna grab, this is the Lunar LBE6, and we're gonna go into the shade No Regrets, which is the first shimmer in the palette. And we're gonna use that as our inner corner. So today I just wanted really pretty, glowy, bronzed skin. And I think I was able to achieve that look. What do you think? So this is the first finished look. I think it looks really pretty. So we'll come back and do another look with this palette. We're back and we're gonna shoot another look with the LA Girl Hey Hey Vacay. So I wanna stick more with like the orangey shades today. So I'm gonna grab a BK Beauty 201 and we're gonna go first into that shade Naked. I did prime my eyes today with the Pretty Vulgar eye primer, which, because I'm doing a more neutral look, that works just fine. It's when I'm doing more colorful looks, I like to use something that really kind of hides the discoloration on my eyelids. But whenever I'm doing more of a neutral look, you can kind of see it doesn't really matter. Sorry about the train, it's kind of passed. They're loud though, around here. And I'm extremely tired today, so if my energy's off, I am sorry. We were at the dog hospital all night last night with my mother-in-law's dog. We didn't get home till 1 in the morning, and then we went back over there to her regular vet so she could stay there at, what time was it? Really early. So I'm gonna go into the shade right here, Sandy Toes, which is more of like an orangey neutral shade. This is a Cleona brush, there's no number on these. And we're gonna keep that in the crease, but kind of bring it up a little bit. This is kind of how I like to build a look. There we go. Isn't that pretty? Oh goodness. Oh. They're performing really nice though. I do like these. I'm gonna use the same brush and we're gonna go into the shade R&R, which is a little bit darker and more orange. They do build up on themselves. You can definitely see a difference. They build up on themselves really nice. And I had great performance out of the eyeshadows because I sat out, because at the emergency vet, it was, you know, they're not letting people in because of, you know, the Rona. So we didn't go in. We sat in the car with the windows down in Southeast Texas heat. It was 80 degrees last night and humid. So they lasted. Now I'm gonna go into the shade Summer, which is even darker. Same brush, because there's no point in dirtying another one at this point. Since we're using all the same color family, we're just kind of building it up and layering it on. So there we go. That looks really good. Okay, I'm liking how that looks so far. I'm gonna take my 201 brush that I used for the nude shade, or Naked is what it's called, and just kind of go over my edges of my orange just to make sure everything's nice and blended. Now I want something a little bit smaller. This is a Sigma medium angled shading in E70, and I'm going to go into that deepest brown shade down here to add just a tiny bit more depth just on the outside. I still want the look to be mainly orange. I just want a little bit more depth. You see how that just brings a little bit more to the table, which is the shade I'm using is called Unplugged. It's hard to read them. I have the other part stuck to the mirror. So there we go. Okay, so I like that. So what I'm gonna use all over the lid today, here is, where's my brush that I wanna use? So I'm gonna use a Cleona flat brush, and we're gonna go into the shade Vibing right here, which is like a beautiful bronze shade. So you can see it picks up well on the brush. I do want to spray this though. I've got MAC Fix Plus, and we're gonna go ahead and spray and apply. That's pretty. And to me, I love a good bronzy look for summer. There's nothing better to me than like tan lines, if done properly. Bake or wearing lots of sunscreen, but you know, I love summer. I love the beaches, if they're pretty. Where we're at in Texas, our beaches are definitely not pretty beaches, but I do love a good beach trip. But yeah, isn't that pretty? Okay, so I am happy with how this looks. I'm gonna go off camera. I'm gonna take and do the rest of my face. We'll come back and do the lower lash line. So I'm back and I have the rest of my face on. I used my Physicians Butter Bronzer in Deep Bronze, the Patrick Ta She's So LA blush, and the Amrezy highlighter. I forget how beautiful this highlight is. And then on my lips, I have the Huda Beauty HBIC lip pencil with the Made It shade by Propa Beauty. It's a beautiful orange shade. So let's apply some color to our bottom lashes and then kind of see where we are. So I think I'm just gonna go straight orange on my bottom lash. I used the Puppy eyeliner from ColourPop. So we're gonna go into that deepest orange that's called Summer. So see how it matches Puppy pretty well. But I don't think I really want any darkness. I just want straight up orangey under my eyes. Because I haven't done that in a while. Done coral, haven't really done a straight up orange look. But I mean, as I said, these shadows perform really, really well. Really well. Especially for the price. I'm gonna go into this shade right here, which is called Bucket List, which is like a lighter. See how that works as a great inner corner highlight. It's almost like a dreamsicle kind of shade for inner corner. There we go. Okay, so that is finished look number 2. We'll see you soon for look number 3. So we're back to do another look with the LA Girl Under the Palms Hey Hey Vacay palette. If you don't remember what it looks like, that's what it looks like. So I think today we're gonna play more with the green. So this will be the 3rd look that I've done with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab, this is a BK Beauty 201. We're gonna go into that lightest shade right up here called Naked. And we're gonna kind of use this as our transition. And I did prime my eyes. I have the Natasha Denona eyeshadow primer on in medium. So, I mean, as you can see, it's pretty much my eye tone, maybe a little bit light now. It's definitely not as light as light, but we like to use it. It's a good one, especially when I'm doing more neutral looks. When I'm doing a bright look, I like to go lighter with my eye primer, but when I'm doing something like this, I don't need to. Okay, next up, I'm gonna grab, this is a Rephr number 15, so it's just another blendy brush, and we're gonna go into the green down here called Palms. And to me, I think that Army Green is a neutral. I know some people probably don't feel the same way that I do, but you know, to each their own. And I think that greens like this, you know, can flatter so many eye colors and skin tones as well. This one's performing really well. So I'm just kind of keeping it towards the outer half, blending it up, but not going too far in. And there's no weird patchiness, nothing like that. Performing well. We love when a good drugstore shadow can perform. Or at least I do. So we're gonna just do that on the other side to make it match. You know, there's so many times that I do try drugstore and they don't work out. And at least for the LA Girl palettes that are this size, this is the second one I've tried, and they've been pretty darn good in my opinion. I mean, especially for the price. I mean, you're paying, you know, 16 bucks for this, and I think that it's definitely worth $16. Especially if you're wanting to try some more of like these army type greens and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm going to take, this is a BK Beauty 203. So it is a much smaller domed brush, and we're gonna go into the darkest shade down here, which is called Unplugged, just to deepen up the outer V some. See how that kind of just gives it a tad bit more depth? I'm not applying a bunch, just doing it slightly like this, because I don't think it needs a whole lot. But this will also make a nice grungy eyeshadow look as well. I think that this palette would be beautiful for fall time. Okay, next up, need a brush. This is the Sigma E55 eye shader brush. We're gonna grab some glitter glue, apply a dollop, a dollop. If you know, you know that I have a memory for like commercials and stuff like that. So not commercials, but jingles stick in my head. So when I say certain things, it's like, oh, then I should sing this song to go along with it. You know what I mean? Because they just don't go away. So I think I'm gonna try the deepest shade first in the green metallics, which is called BRB. Don't wanna break it. And I'm just picking it up with my brush. And I'm gonna keep that shade towards the darker green. See, just on the back half of the eye. That's really pretty. I don't think it's the most metallic or reflective thing I've ever seen, but I also don't think that everything has to be like that, and it kind of depends on your style. So I'm wiping that off the brush, and then I'm gonna go into this shade, which is a little bit lighter, called Mojitos. That's a pretty color. It's like a greenish gold. And we're going to apply that to the front half of the eye. See, and to me that color definitely has a very brass kind of shade. So, I really like that. But you see what I'm saying, like, even though this is green, it's not green to the effect of, it still has like a neutralness to it. But it's something a little bit, at least in my mind, it's a little jazzier than just plain browns or warm tone browns, but it's not completely out there. So this is what the top of the eyes look like. I think I'm gonna take this as my Break the Rules palette by It's Belle. I haven't tested this shade. I've swatched the shades a couple of times, and I'm gonna go into this shade up here, Not Listening. It's like a multi-chrome, super duper shiny. It's got green, and then it kind of just reflects a couple of other colors. I'm gonna take that same Sigma brush, that I used, and I'm gonna see if I can pick up some of that shade just to, yes. I want something a tad bit punchier. See how that just layered up and gave it just a tiny bit more brightness? And then in person, it has a lot more reflective qualities. But I ordered this Break the Rules palette a while ago, and I'm excited to finally get to play with it. Now, do I think I have these shades in my collection? Probably, but you know, I'm all for trying new eyeshadows. Okie dokie. So now I'm happy with the top of the eyes. I'm gonna go off camera, do the rest of my face. We'll come back, do the lower lash line, and talk about my final thoughts on this palette by LA Girl. So I'm back and I have the rest of my face on. I used my Soul bronzer in the shade medium, which you really can't tell I'm wearing a lot of bronzer. I'm already bronzed from outside exercise. I used a mixture of Joy and Bliss for my blush today from Rare Beauty. And then I used my ColourPop highlighting stick, light stick in the shade Bullseye. So I look nice and dewy and glowy, which is something I like to do during the warmer months. And I also used my Lunar Beauty lip gloss in the shade Celine. I think I'm almost done with it. And for eyeliner, I used the Tom Ford Icol Intense and a Metallic Moss. This is a beautiful, beautiful green shade. So I'm gonna take, this is a BK Beauty 207. We're gonna go into that shade Palms, that dark green. And I'm just tight lining under my lashes with that. Really close to the lash line, because this is already kind of a dark and smoky kind of look, which I love. But we don't want it to be too much, because I still want it to kind of, like, this would be like a summer date night look for me, or a fall date night. But to me, the skin screams summer. So I'm just taking my BK Beauty 201 that I had the naked shade on. I haven't added any more product. And I'm just using that to really smoke out and make sure that shade underneath is blended. But yeah, that looks really pretty. Now I'm gonna take, this is a BK Beauty 204, and we're gonna go into this shade right here, which is called Panoramic. So it's like a light gold with some green to it. And we're just using that as an inner corner highlight. See how pretty that looks? And we are now done with the 3 looks using the LA Girl palette under the palms. And let's talk about my thoughts on it. If you're looking for a palette like this, or you're wanting to play with some greens and you haven't, I definitely would recommend this, because I think that those really, I mean, you can see this is a gorgeous look. Took no time at all. I don't sit here and edit out a lot of my blending, anything like that. What you see is what you get. And this palette really impressed me, especially for $16. And at Ulta, like when I purchased this, these were buy 2 get 1 free. So I ended up buying 2 more palettes, LA Girl palettes, to put in a giveaway. So keep your eyes open for that. But yeah, I would definitely recommend this palette. So if you like this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button right down below. And if you hit the notification bell icon next to it, that will notify you when I post new videos, which is typically Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And Saturdays at 2 p.m. we do a live. But I guess that's it. So we'll see y'all later. Bye.